Former Chairman and CEO of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, Dr. Sam Amadi, joins me live on the news at 7 for more. Good to have you join us at this time. The federal government is set to pay 2 trillion out of 4 trillion naira owed to power generation companies by the end of the year. Do you consider this as a knee-jerk reaction?
Well, thank you for having me. I don't think it's knee-jerk. I think these debts ought to be paid, and maybe the ministry, within the constraint of fiscal constraints, have to find a way to pay. These are debts that perhaps they constrain the generation companies from maintaining their level of capacity, and again, they have to also pay gas suppliers. So making efforts to pay, even though they're not paying all, is the right thing to do. So in a sense, I think it's a good response because the debt overhang is growing and it threatens the capacity of the generation companies to continue to put supplies in the grid, and that will constrain the available power supply to homes and business. So that's the right thing to do. But whether that is enough to stave off what looks like impending bankruptcy is a different question.
But what do you think should be done, to this behavior of government parastatals who actually, owe the power generating companies?
I think they should be penalized severely. I mean, when I was there in the previous government, there was a case, was the same problem. But then we had the president then give an executive order authorizing that those MDAs debts should be utility bills should be taken at source. And this is very heinous because these MDAs have budgetary lines for utilities. And so the normal thing to do is to designate somebody to monthly, periodically pay these utilities that are almost standard. So the fact that they don't pay is injurious, is a threat, almost a threat to national development, because they know that this sector is struggling with financing, and the least person that should sabotage the financial viability of the sector is government-owned entities. We understand that sometimes the military and the security officers are involved, and the discos cannot go and disconnect them, and they can't cut off supply because of the essential services, and therefore they should reciprocate by taking it as a first line of charge. So maybe there should be a broad-based approach to take it from source, and so that they don't continue to imperil the financial viability of this sector.
But aside that option, of taking it from source, couldn't there be some other option? Talk about lack of supply to non-paying parastatals, or can there be prepaid meters to solve the matter? I know you were speaking about the fact that it might be impossible to really disconnect them.
Yeah, I think prepaid meter was one of the options. So the then government instructed that as a priority, they should prioritize prepaid meter. But look at it this way. Think about the military cantonments and barracks that have armed supplies that require 24/7 power. So the danger of prepaid meter is that if you don't pay and you're out of supply, that could be a problem. So I agree. You have to do a couple of things. First is that penalize grievously MDA chief executives who fail to pay. Mr. President can punish them, can even remove some of them because of that level of inefficiency. Secondly, you can also instruct maybe the PAMSEC or the head of service for those civil service operations to deduct them at source. And thirdly, meter them. And those that are possible, we cut off their supply, even though invariably it will affect productivity, because if you cut off supply to a vital parastatal, it will affect productivity of workers. But these options, the most important is a high-level decision that, look, this is no longer acceptable. And then debt should be a measure for performance. So if you put debt to utilities as a measure of performance, then that means every CEO or chief executive of parastatal that doesn't perform knows that he or she could be removed because of no performance.
So we understand that
incentive structure for performance.
All right. So there are about 33 power generating companies and 27 power plants operating in Nigeria. Are those really enough to meet our energy needs?
Not at all. I mean, look, the capacity at most, they could perhaps give 14,000 megawatts if we have for the gas, if they are going to supply at where the TCN can carry load. So assuming TCN is able to take these loads and discos can serve, that's 14,000 megawatts. Again, this is very low for a country of over 200 million people with our industrial development, urbanization. So at least we should be able to have power plants cumulatively generating the excess of 40,000. I mean, if South Africa with about 50 million people are 440, so it's not about the number of generators, it's about volume, it's about the capacity they produce to the grid.
Former Chairman CEO of NERC, Dr. Sam Amadi, thank you very much for talking to us on TVC News at 7.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about development in Rivers State. The House of Representatives